Alright, today we are diving into a topic that usually makes people reach for a calculator, but we're actually going to put the math aside. We're talking about the behavioral side of wealth, specifically looking at the philosophy of Morgan Housel. Housel has this incredible way of making you realize that your bank account is less about your IQ and much more about your EQ, your emotional intelligence. We're looking at his two major pillars, the psychology of money and the art of spending. Housel argues that doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave. That leads into one of his most famous points, the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Most people see $100,000 car and think that person is wealthy. But Housel reminds us that wealth is actually what you don't see. It's the car not purchased. It's the optionality of having money in the bank. It's that invisible freedom. Wealth gives you the ability to say, I don't have to take this job, or I can spend an extra month at home with my kids. That's the highest dividend money pays, controlling your time. We spend so much time learning how to save, but we're actually pretty bad at knowing how to spend it once we have it. Spending is often just a status signal. We buy things to tell people we have money, which, ironically, is the fastest way to have less money. Housel's art of spending is about finding your specific utility. It's about being an editor of your own life. So the term specific utility, it means asking, does this purchase actually improve my life? Or am I just trying to keep up with a neighbor who isn't even looking at me? For some, spending money on a high-end chef to cook healthy meals is a massive win because it saves time and health. For others, it's a waste. There's no one-size-fits-all. The goal is to stop moving the goalposts. That's the hardest part, isn't it? As soon as we earn more, we want more. Housel calls that the treadmill of expectations. If your expectations rise as fast as your income, you're never actually getting ahead emotionally. Ultimately, this whole narrative is about independence, not Lamborghini independence, but I own my morning independence. If you can wake up and say, I can do whatever I want today, you've mastered both the psychology and the art of money. Now let's get to the gist of these two best-selling books. We like to think of money as a math problem. We treat it like physics, cold, calculated, and governed by universal laws. But if money were just math, nobody would buy a lottery ticket they can't afford, and no one would panic sell at the bottom of a market crash. Morgan Housel teaches us that money isn't about what you know. It's about how you behave. Your relationship with money was likely forged in the fires of your childhood. If you grew up when inflation was 15%, you see the world differently than someone who grew up in a decade of zero interest rates. None of us are crazy. We are all just operating based on a unique set of experiences that make sense to us. The most powerful tool in finance isn't a spreadsheet. It's patience. Housel reminds us that 90% of Warren Buffett's wealth was generated after his 65th birthday. The math is simple. The discipline is agonizing. But here is the catch. To stay in the game long enough for compounding to work, you need room for error. You need a gap between what you think will happen and what can happen. In the psychology of money, Housel notes that wealth is what you don't see. It's the cars not bought, the diamonds not purchased, the first-class seats declined. Wealth is the invisible option to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. If the psychology of money is about how we get it, the art of spending money is about the much harder task, how we use it to actually improve our lives. Most of us spend money to signal status. We buy things to tell the world we have made it. But Housel argues that spending to impress others is the fastest way to have less money and more insecurity. The art of spending is finding what Housel calls your specific utility. Does a $500 dinner make you happy? Or does it just make you feel important? Does the big house provide comfort? Or does it just provide a bigger lawn to mow? Spending money to buy time is the highest form of utility. Using money to get a nagging task off your plate, or to gain an extra hour with your children. That isn't an expense. It's an investment in your sanity. Everything has a price, but not all prices are on labels. The price of a successful investment is not a fee. It's volatility, fear, and uncertainty. If you can't pay that emotional price, you can't have the reward. Similarly, the price of a good life isn't just the cost of the goods. It's the ability to say enough. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalposts to stop moving. If your expectations rise as fast as your income, you are on a treadmill that only ends in exhaustion. Housel's philosophy isn't about being a miser. It's about being an editor. Edit out the spending that serves your ego. Double down on the spending that serves your independence. At the end of the day, money is just a fuel for the life you want to lead. The psychology of money tells us to be humble when things go well and compassionate when they go wrong. The art of spending tells us to be intentional with every dollar that leaves our hand. The goal isn't to be the richest person in the graveyard. The goal is to own your time, because the highest dividend money pays is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today.